We begin tonight in Christchurch with the levels of frustration, helplessness and despair over protracted insurance disputes, now lasting multiple years in some cases. Will tomorrow see a Southern Response claimant begin a hunger strike outside the government-owned insurer's office in Christchurch? Peter Glasson says he knows exactly what he's doing and he knows the possible outcome. But after delays in assessments, delays in court hearings and increasing financial costs mortgaged against their damaged home and the emotional and psychological toll of never making meaningful progress, he's run out of options. I spoke to Peter Glasson a short time ago.
We've got foundation problems with our house, and we've had 4 separate consulting engineers look at our house and have agreed that we need a new foundation. One of those was actually appointed by Southern Response. They then sacked that engineer and got another engineer who has come in and said, we don't need a new foundation. So that's really the basis of our dispute.
So why the hunger strike, which is a really drastic response? What's driven you to this, Peter?
We have made numerous, and I mean numerous, requests to Southern Response to sit down with us and resolve it between 2 parties. And they just continue to come up with reasons as to why they're not going to do that. And essentially, I asked them again by email to the CEO last week, and he just came back with a lawyer-prepared email to me saying that they wanted to do yet another inspection of our house with 13 people, and this would then be the 17th site inspection they've done of our house. And that would result in another delay of probably another 4 or 5 months.
Where are you living now? In that house?
Still living in the house, yeah.
And so you've just had a gutsful of this, have you?
We've had a gutsful of the continued delay and the very, very cunning tricks that the Southern Response lawyers undertake.
It could be delaying tricks. Certainly, if I was in your position, it would feel like delaying tricks. It's not due process here, given that your case, because the foundations are so important in terms of what wasn't assessed, what was missed in the scopes. It's not possible that this could be a precedent, this case, and therefore Southern Response, on behalf of the government, have to get it right.
It's possible that that's the case. Ours is a 1920s house, and it's a rubble foundation.
Right. So these are the foundations where there are big problems that, in many cases, in the initial scopes were missed. That's
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, so, that's absolutely correct.
So is it possible, you poor buggers, that you find yourselves potentially a kind of precedent case here?
Yes, it's quite possible that they haven't told us that, but that's quite possible that they want to take this to court to force this issue through, because our foundations were built in the 1920s, and the foundations themselves are such that they can't be joined onto other parts or re-levelled properly on their own.
So a hunger strike, Peter. I mean, you know, those of us who remember the IRA, Bobby Sands. You know, I mean,
I remember those too. Yes,
oh, they're terrible things. I mean, and if you sit out the front there and no one takes any notice of you, and nothing changes, what are you going to do?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that, and I've weighed this up quite. For a long time in my mind, but we're at the end of our tether. It has been a continuous war of attrition, of financial and psychological attrition, of taking out a mortgage on our house to fight them, and we've had enough.
So you're prepared to do the hunger strike until whatever conclusion?
That's correct.
What leads you to that point?
Well, if you went through 7.5 years of it, you'd know that the continual stress, the bullying and intimidation, the dirty tricks that the lawyers play, after a while has quite an effect on you psychologically. And I'm one of those people that say that's enough. You know, your parents and mine didn't fight in the Second World War for this kind of behaviour in a free and democratic society. And so I need to undertake this.
And you were some of the people spied on by Southern Response, weren't you, for want of a better term?
That's correct. Yeah. So back in 2014, I was one of the small group of people that organised the class action against Southern Response, and it's now been confirmed to me now that Thompson and Clark private investigators in Auckland were hired by Southern Response to spy on me, and that was confirmed in a letter
Peter,
to me
forgive these questions, but did you make any threats against staff members? Was there any behaviour of yours that might reasonably be described as threatening?
Never, ever did anything like that. I was simply organising claimant meetings to attend a meeting. The first one was about 350 people attended a meeting at the university, and I organised that meeting.
Yeah, I remember that meeting. I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And as a result of that, they labelled us as activists and anarchists. And I've been a planning consultant and a businessman, a company director for the last 25 years.
And did you ever, in your most appalling low points over the past 7 and a bit years, think that you would be forced into this kind of action?
No, probably in the last 6 months. It's become, since November last year, and in the last 5 months, Southern Response have done absolutely nothing at all. And in those 5 months, we've come to realise that it's just going to go on and on forever.
So what's your financial position now after 7 years of this?
Well, we've spent a massive amount of money fighting Southern Response. They know that. They've just before the last court case, they asked for our costs, and so we detailed those and sent them to us, sent them to them on the basis that we thought they were interested in settling, and 2 days later they said they weren't going to pay any of our costs. So it was a cynical way of finding out how much money we'd actually spent. So these are the games the lawyers play.
Have you spoken, obviously you've spoken to Anne, your wife, right, about this?
Correct, yes.
And she supports you in a hunger strike?
Yes.
Have you got kids?
Yep. 2 children.
And do they support you in a hunger strike?
Yes.
Why?
Well, the situation is different in Christchurch, John, than it is in Auckland, and to go through this for 7.5 years, you'd understand.
Peter Glasson talking to us earlier. We've gone to Southern Response for a response, and we are awaiting that. We will bring it to you if it comes to us before we go off air at 6:30. Southern Response are very welcome to join us on the program if they are so inclined.